So the first question is, what's your most painful fashion moment?
Every day. I'm like zero fashion.
This is David Stark from Watch Our Pass, and today I'm joined by Patricia Gomez Zlatar, the co-writer and producer of Slaxx, which released earlier on Shudder and is now released on VOD, digital, and DVD on September 7th. We're going to talk to her in just a second, but first, let's check out the trailer. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me out a lot. Thank you.
Ready.
Hi there. And you are?
Libby.
You are here for the new collection turnaround. This is such an important night for us.
A lot of people have been very keen to get their eyes on it. Jeans that automatically adapt to your body size.
Lockdown activated.
I want you to know I will do whatever it takes to make sure things go as scheduled.
Oh my god. I'm so totally excited I could just die.
Hi.
Patricia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing well. Thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So this is Patricia Gomez. Is it Zlatar? Is later?
Zlatar, very good.
Zlatar.
Most people don't get it on the first try.
There you go. Well, that's why I'm a professional, maybe? I don't know. This is Patricia Gomez Zlatar, the co-writer and producer of Slaxx, which was available earlier this year on Shudder and is now coming to VOD, digital, and DVD on September 7th, 2021. So thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, really. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So the first question is, what jeans are you wearing? What's your fashion today? I imagine that's probably a normal question for this type of interview.
I have to say, I'm like the least fashion person ever. I'm like jeans and usually a concert t-shirt of some kind.
But designer jeans and like a vintage concert t-shirt, right?
You make me sound so much more fancier than I really am. But, I am actually wearing a pair of jeans that are made in Montreal because I am trying to be a woman of my words and trying not to buy those really cheap jeans at the Gap, even though the price tag is so tempting.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Pay a little bit more so they last way longer and not just a few years. So
yeah, exactly. Just do a little bit better for yourself. I'm wearing, I think, Hollister jeans. I have no idea if they are sustainably or ethically sourced. I'm not sure. We'll find out, I guess.
I can't say either, but
yeah.
At least it's not something like the Gap or something, I guess, which we know is definitely not good news.
You just never know with fashion these days. But I guess everyone's wearing sweatpants now, so it's not really a big concern anymore. So I guess the first question, you're a co-writer of this film. What was the inspiration? I mean, I guess did you start off reading about kind of just the sweatshop and labor market in the world and then kind of try to figure out how to bring that into horror? Did you have like a really bad experience at a fashion show and then try to work back? How did you go about kind of coming up with the story? Because it's very original and very kind of unique.
I mean, it started with the idea of making a slasher film with a killer pair of pants. I know that sounds ludicrous, but I was on a road trip with my co-writer Elza, and it was a very long road trip, and we started getting loopy, and we started talking about words we hated, which Slaxx is one of them. And we started to repeat Slaxx over and over again until it just sounded like a killer. And we're like, we need to write a film about killer pants. So we knew that was a great idea, but it took us a while to kind of get where we ended up. So our first draft was horrible. It was like generic slasher in a high school, popular girls dying, very, very boring. We weren't very happy with it, so we put it on the shelf for a few years. And then when we took it back off the shelf, we decided to put it in a store. I have a lot of retail experience, so we started to kind of infuse it with that kind of corporate BS that you see in the film, and this idea of like a corporation that's using their employees and the consumers, and just like a very greedy corporation. So it was beginning to shape up, but we were still kind of missing a piece. And then Elza saw a documentary about fast fashion, and then she knew right away that was it. And so we brought that into the script. It gelled like immediately, and then we had a draft very quickly after that. So it took a little while. I can't say we approached it from a very academic point of view. Like, it started off very silly, but I think through the years we realized it couldn't just be about killer jeans. It had to be about something more.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, I like the iterative process of how you went about it. And a greedy corporation. I mean, this is a pure fiction work, right? There's nothing like that in real life. So I like your imagination. But I do love, I love this. This is kind of my favorite type of horror, when you have like an entertaining horror film that also has another socially responsible or greater message. And I feel like a lot of those have come out recently. And I think it's just, I don't know if it's more people discovering horror. Maybe I'm just watching more horror, so I'm seeing some of these nuances. But I do love, that horror can be an avenue to then, teach a little bit about some of the world issues that are going on.
Yeah, I think that's important for Elza and I. I mean, Elza and I are huge horror fans. We grew up on horror, and we always liked the horror films that were about something else. The ones that you watch and they're super entertaining, but you go home and a week later you're still kind of mulling over certain things about the film. So we were trying to do that with Slaxx too, because obviously we want people to have a great time watching the film. It's not like we're trying to preach anything, and certainly Elza and I aren't these like super green, super ethical, people in the sense that all our clothes we make ourselves. We're not those kinds of people either. So I don't want you to think that we're not on any high horse here, but we did feel it was important to kind of infuse some of the issues that we were beginning to think about as people. Where does all our stuff? Why is it so cheap? And all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
definitely. And so this is also, it's a comedy horror film. So did it always have that comedy thread through it from the first draft, or was that something that kind of evolved as the story also evolved?
I mean, it always had the comedy element, just because it's a film about killer pants. It can't be otherwise, right?
The most serious film about killer
serious,
pants.
like drama where people are crying,
Yeah.
So there always was that element of comedy. I have to say, though, it was very tricky to balance it when we were editing. It's a tricky balance, how much comedy and then how much seriousness. We were always kind of riding that fine line, which took us a little while to find, actually, because I felt like when we wrote it, it seemed like it would be all right, but when we shot it and then we took it to the editing room, we were like, okay, we really have to work on this like right balance. So hopefully we got it, because that was very challenging for us.
I think you did. I think it was a good balance of the humor was kind of throughout, and it also kind of played in with just kind of the dry humor of the fashion store itself and some of the practices that it had. So I think it definitely worked throughout. One other thing I was wondering, so the film has some phrases in Hindi, some written phrases and also some spoken phrases. Do you or your co-writer, did you either of you speak Hindi, or was this something that you had someone come in to help flesh that part out?
Yeah, we had to have someone come in to help, because we do not speak Hindi at all. And in fact, what we learned, we're in Montreal, we learned that the youth, the Indian youth in Montreal don't speak Hindi either and have a hard time writing it. So we had to find older people were the ones that were able to come and help us figure out how to write it and all that. So the youth can speak it, they just can't write it very well. It was so interesting to find that out. So we found an older woman who, she was such a good sport. You kind of call someone up and say, can you help me translate something for a film about killer pants? And she was like, sure. I was like, okay, well. So she helped us and she taught us how to write it too. So when you see in the film the Hindi being written, it's actually written the right way.
That's awesome. That
yeah.
fantastic.
So we really we took videos, and then we made sure our special effects guy saw the video so he could really mimic the right way of writing it.
And then the other question is, you've brought it a couple of times, like this is a film about killer pants. How did you pitch this film? Were you involved in the pitching process? Was this just, was that the tagline, killer pants or something like that?
And as to die for, right?
Oh, wow. It just writes itself.
Right? I mean, come on. I mean, Elza and I, we pitched at Fantasia, which is a huge genre film festival in Montreal. It has a market. So we were fortunate enough to pitch there. And then we hooked up with our co-producer, Anne-Marie. She loved the pitch. And it's the kind of thing where Slaxx, you either love it or hate it. You either hear it and you think it's great, or you hear it and you're like, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It's not going to work. So luckily, Anne-Marie was very excited about it. And in Quebec, the grant system is definitely opening up to horror. They're opening up to like diversity. So it kind of was the right time for Slaxx, that we were like three women trying to make a horror film with a message. So we were able to get grants from Canada, the Canadian government, to help fund Slaxx, if you can believe it, because they love the message.
That's awesome. And hey, the more horror, the better, right? No matter how it comes about, the more horror, the better.
Yeah, I agree.
So I know we have very limited time. So I'm going to switch. I call it the lightning round. They're just very short, lightweight questions that kind of relate to the film and your experiences. You can feel free not to answer them if you want to, but I try to keep them very answerable. So the first question is, what's your most painful fashion moment?
Every day I'm like such a slob. Like I have to remember to brush my hair. I'm like zero fashion all the time. So
I was going to mention, I think my jeans are those like self-fitting jeans, because they definitely felt a little tighter than I remember at the start of lockdown. So I think I have your special jeans here. What is your most expensive pair of jeans?
okay, my most expensive, I would say $120. They're like these ethical, fair trade jeans, and I decided to splurge for them because they were made in Montreal, and I said, let's do it. Yeah.
There you go. They look good and you can feel good about wearing them. It's perfect.
Yeah, there you go.
Have you ever gotten clothing or something stuck in like a shredder or some piece of machinery that would have been very bad if it hadn't stopped?
No, and thank God. I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah. Okay, that would be terrible. Good. And the last question is, do you like Bollywood music?
Yes, I love Bollywood music. I'm not a connoisseur at all, so I can't be telling you all these, artists or whatever. But every time I hear it, I definitely enjoy it, and I do enjoy watching the Bollywood films as well. But again, I'm not super into that scene, so I can't really give you any names or anything like that. But they're just fun. They have such a great energy and vibe.
I agree. I also very much enjoy watching Bollywood films just because it's a very different feel, right? It's a lot more positive, a lot more energetic, and they have such great.
And I just find I can lose myself in it because it's so different from my everyday life. I can just really kind of get lost in it because it's just almost magical. When something is so different, you're just like going in.
There you go. So the film comes out on VOD, digital, and DVD on September 7th, 2021. You're promoting the film towards that release. After it comes out, what do you have next? Do you have other, horror or other films in the hopper that you're working on or planning?
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally a horror person. So Elza and I, we have a lot of projects. We have a vampire TV series we're working on called Sweet Blood. We also have a poltergeist script we're beginning to write about my years in grad school. So I'm trying to purge some of that into
That's awesome.
And then I'm also working with a lot of other great filmmakers in Montreal, and all horror projects. That's really what I like to spend my time on.
Oh, that sounds perfect. More horror, more meaningful horror, the better. So thank you so much for your time. And the film is Slaxx. It's available now on Shudder. It's coming out September 7th on VOD, digital, and DVD. Thank you so much, Patricia.
My pleasure. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That was Patricia Gomez Zlatar, the co-writer and producer of Slaxx, which is coming to DVD, VOD, and digital on September 7th, 2021. It's a fashionable horror film that has a lot more to say than you initially think, so definitely check it out. If you liked this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot and make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.